Welcome back to the Wolf of Property and Casualty. I'm your host, Derek Lasniak. 15 years of experience in the commercial broking space, focused on the middle market, upper middle market, national account arena. Welcome back to another episode of Commissions to Convictions. Again, this is my personal story and reflection after reaching the pinnacle of property and casualty sales success, including equity partnership, 7-digit W-2, and then crumbling it all down. Substance abuse, poor decisions, losing myself, burnout that ultimately led to 3 months in Rock County Jail. And this series within the Wolf of Property and Casualty is about my reflections at the lowest moment of my life, the rawness of my life while being incarcerated, and how I've thought about those across a 15-year career, and just talking and being an outlet and being honest and vulnerable about lessons that I've learned, losing everything that I've lost, but also gaining so many things along the way. And I could do a lot of episodes on trust, and I'm sure I will have another episode on trust and how I took something as delicate as trust in my professional and my personal life and ignored it and shit on it. I think for the story that I want to recount today, I don't think it's a broader discussion about trust as much as I want to talk about an aspect of trust. And I keep coming back to this idea of the boy who cried wolf and the story about the boy who cried wolf. And that's an element of trust. When you have 100% of trust in from people, you have a lot of leeway in things you say and things you do. And this concept of trust and this concept of the boy who cried wolf and the concept of belief and people believing what you say is something that's important. I mean, the insurance business is a trust business. The insurance buyer is trusting the insurance agent. But what is an agent? You are an agent of the insurance carrier. And so if you really think about the dynamics, the buyer is trusting you. And even though you're an agent of the insurance company, and no buyers actually trust the insurance company. And so I think this trust is this delicate thing, but the trust that I want to talk about isn't from the client side or the buyer side. I think where I lost so much trust, putting my personal side away, was that within my own organization at the professional side. And I'll put aside the fact that I got arrested multiple times in 2024 for OWI, including possession of drugs. And whatever trust I would have had should have been eradicated because there's no reason to believe me. But if I'm being honest with myself, I didn't have a high trust brand within the organization even before those things happened. I was mischievous at times. I was manipulative at times in order to create the angle that I needed. I was accused and maybe some of these things, certainly were optics because I did work hard and I did service the customer. Maybe some of these things were optics and politics, but there always is a baseline, and the baseline always has some truth to it. And so put aside that there was even less trust for me once I, was arrested and went to rehab, and my company graciously gave me an opportunity to even be employed there. Put that aside, I don't think I came from a place of a huge amount of trust. I think I was blessed to have a second chance to restore my career before I left on the basis that I was successful and I worked really hard, and the story was so outrageous. But I want to talk about just the belief and what happens when that belief or that believability is eroded to a point where it makes, even when your intentions are right, it makes things really difficult. And I'll start by bringing up a story from my time in jail. I mentioned before that I worked in the kitchen and I had elevated within the kitchen, which was a privilege. They called them trustees, which is ironic. So if you're a trustee, you are a worker in the jail, you're working time off of your sentence. And I love to cook. And so I worked in the kitchen. It was not glamorous, but it gave me purpose and it gave me an opportunity to get home quicker to my family. But when you have a bunch of inmates working in the kitchen, no matter how trustworthy they are, you're around stuff that you don't necessarily let inmates, knives and tools. And I remember I started at the second part of my time, I was managing Meals on Wheels for all of Rock County. And I would start at about 5:15 a.m. because we had to get the meals together by 10 o'clock. And I had a fair amount of responsibility for prepping all the meals, which, included a lot of, vegetable prep, etc. And I remember I got handed to me by the workers there. I got handed a peeler. What you would peel it. I was peeling cucumbers for a salad I was putting together. And I was doing that, all morning. And I must have peeled like I don't know, a 6-pound box of cucumbers. And in my haste to get it done, because I was in a hurry that morning, I don't remember what I did with the cucumber peeler. And I was a perfect inmate. I was no one's problem. I was working hard. I was the guy writing letters. And there was nothing to lead believe that I would be doing anything malicious. But when I was done with the peeler, I forgot to turn it back in because there's a blade on that peeler and you can't have that floating around a jail. And I don't remember what happened to it. I was in such a rush. Ultimately, what I think happened is I was peeling, and I dropped it into the garbage can that I was peeling the cucumbers into. And the whole day goes by and I don't think anything of it. And that afternoon or that evening, I'm sitting in my cell, which is like a dorm room for myself, and I'm reading a book, and four officers come and say, "Get out of the room, put your hands against the wall." They search my entire room, they handcuff me, and I finally say, "What's going on?" And they're like, "Nobody turned in the peeler that has a blade on it. What'd you do with it? Where is it? Where are you hiding it? Where is it? What's going on?" Searched my entire room. I was questioned for an hour and a half. I was showed the video from the kitchen, and I said, "Look, guys, I don't know. I didn't steal the. I was in such a hurry. I think I accidentally threw it away." The video was inconclusive. I went through a full body scanner, and these people, even though there was no track record of having any way to believe me that it was an honest mistake, I didn't even think of the peeler as a weapon. They didn't believe me, and I went through this interrogation and this investigation until such time they let me go after 4 hours and my heart pounding out of my chest. And it's because I was there as an inmate. And by the standard of being an inmate, there was no reason to trust me. And there was no presumption of, hey, I'm being truthful with you guys. I didn't do anything with this. And I liken that to the relationship that you can have at your employer if you build up a series of things that give people pause. You're not going to get the benefit of the doubt. Like I said, you become the boy who cried wolf. And I think about my time after coming back from rehabilitation when I was trying to put my career back together. This would have been the summer of 2025. And I found myself in a situation where I was being asked by a customer to travel to an event in out of state in Kentucky. And part of the rules of engagement that I had with the organization I worked for was let's not travel out of state for right now, just with everything going on in your life personally and legally and et cetera. And somewhere along the line, my business partner at the time, who I trusted to handle appropriately, elevated that because my presence was mandatory. I was going to be running a tabletop exercise for some clients and I was specifically good at it. And this would have been a request for an exception to the no travel for Derek rule. And a business partner of mine apparently had taken it all the way to the CEO of the organization, and he believed that he had an affirmative that I could go on this trip, which was against kind of the parameters of my ongoing work with the firm. And he misinterpreted that or heard what he wanted to hear, and we booked this trip, and it gets back to the leadership team that went against the parameters of what I was supposed to be doing by booking a trip and confirming to a large client that I would be there. And now it's impossible to walk it back because this is a huge customer. And when I was talking to my supervisor at the time, I said, "Look, honestly, I wasn't trying to cause issues. I'd already assumed I couldn't go. I thought that we had approval." And I could tell in the voice of this person who frankly didn't have the most patience with me and in general. But I could tell over the years that I didn't have any trust. This person didn't believe me. And for the first time, I didn't have an angle. I honestly thought that I would miss this opportunity to present for this customer and run this tabletop. I felt sad about that. And I was kind of shocked when my associate said that there was approval from the CEO. And this person, and I said this is an honest mistake or miscommunication. And this person had no reason to believe me. At one of the hardest points of my life, well, I'm trying to pick up the pieces of my world. I am accused of and assumed to be untrustworthy, even though it's at a point where I honestly think there was miscommunication. But if you don't build up that, if you don't have a leg to stand on, if you are the boy who cried wolf, if everybody has to trust but verify what you have and what you say because of how you behave, then you're going to have these situations where even when there is innocence to it, you don't have the benefit of the doubt. And so this is a reminder when you think of these examples that your actions day in and day out are building the brand and the foundation for what you need in order to get the benefit of the doubt, not be the boy who cried wolf, and to build that trust with the people you work with, not just the people you work for.